Thank you very much.
And also a great deal of thanks here to Jide Ojo. Jide Ojo, public affairs analyst, it's been a pleasure having you join us.
The pleasure is mine. Thanks for having me.
It's now time for the media review segment. Elizabeth, it's all yours.
Journalists across the globe often face violence and intimidation for exercising their fundamental right to freedom of expression. The range of threats they are confronted with include murder, kidnapping, hostage-taking, harassment, intimidation, enforced disappearance, and torture. How do we ensure the safety of journalists as they receive, produce, and share information without facing physical or moral threats? My guest, Emmanuel Obeche, Chairman, Nigerian Union of Journalists, FCT Chapter, will provide answer. Mr. Emmanuel, thank you so much for joining us on Insights.
Thank you for this opportunity.
All right, now tell us, I'm glad you are familiar with the terrain. Are Nigerian journalists safe or totally exposed to threats?
Well, if we go by the safety index, Nigeria is ranked 118 out of 180 countries. That tells you that not just because of this administration, it's been a recurring decimal that journalists in Nigeria and media practitioners in general aren't safe, because we have a situation where state and non-state actors think that journalists are game. That is, they are simply there for them to be harassed, intimidated, and sometimes murder. Because I saw you missed out the issue of killings. Journalists have been killed, not just by state actors, but also non-state actors, because if you remember not too long ago, media houses were targets of terrorist attacks, including here in Abuja, the Federal Capital Territory. So, by and large, one will say that journalists in Nigeria are not particularly safe, because nowhere in the world, even in America, can one exactly say that journalists are safe. The kind of job we do by holding governments and its officials accountable to the people x-raying their activities naturally will put you at risk.
Okay. Oftentimes, like you said, media practitioners face a lot on the field. Is there a form of protection that comes with the profession?
Well, your first guarantee of safety is that you must be ready to be professional. Okay. You must be objective. You must be balanced. But those are basic. Those are basic issues or basic professional ethics. But to say that safety in itself is a guarantee by the state. The state must first of all provide the conducive environment for the practice of journalism, for journalists and media practitioners. That is the first guarantee. Because if the state demonstrates its capacity, its willingness and readiness to ensure that journalists are safe, either through legislation or enforcement of the law, then one can be confident that journalists and media practitioners will be safe. But where there is an apparent lack of the provision of state security, then you just have to rely on being professional at all times, hoping that those you're reporting on and for will be kind enough, underline the word, kind enough, not to make you a subject of their threats, intimidation, harassment, murder, and torture.
Okay. When we talk about threats on the job, don't you think at a point this could affect judgments and objectivity?
Of course, obviously. As a journalist, if I know that I am to report Corporation A in a manner that is objective and in a manner that I think I owe society a duty to expose perhaps the underhand dealings of Corporation A, and I know that there is no guarantee for my safety, there is no guarantee that I will not be harmed, then it impairs judgment. It impairs your ability to work without let. You understand? But when you're ruled by fear, when you're ruled by the fact that you could be kidnapped, when you're ruled by the fact that your family members could be in danger, you understand? What do? Either you naturally forget about reporting on the activities of such a corporation or individuals, or you bear the risk and say, okay, simply because I want to serve society and live by the conduct of what, the profession entails, then I will become a sacrificial lamb. It does impair judgment when you're faced with threats.
Okay, talking about threats, do we have legislations backing the profession here in Nigeria?
Well, that has been our clamor, that government needs to create that environment where the journalists operate without let or hindrance, where the safety of journalists does not become a matter of debate. There is no specific rules of engagement for journalists in this country, whether by government or individuals. You understand? That is why, unfortunately, if you remember not too long ago, last year, 2019, when a cover journalist with one of the TV stations here was killed covering a protest by the Shiite Islamic movement of Nigeria, here. It's become a recurring decimal. During the COVID-19 1 and 2 lockdowns, journalists were subject of abuse, subject of intimidation and harassment by and from security agencies. You get it. And also, not just too long ago, when the NSAS protest was all over almost the whole part of the country, journalists were subject of attack. So there is no enforceable legislation or rules of engagement in which we can, as journalists, take shelter under. That is why we keep calling upon the federal government, state government, and even local authorities to come up with that rules of engagement, especially for security agencies, that they should see the journalists as partners in progress, partners in ensuring that there is harmony and there is stability in this country.
Okay. Now, talking about harassment, intimidation, torture, how has the NUJ been handling such issues?
Yeah, thank you very much. What we have done is to offer refresher courses for our colleagues and our members across the country. That first of all, if, for instance, you need to cover a protest, you must be properly kitted, with a vest that indicates that you're from the media or the press. You should also be aware of your environment and vicinity. And you should, when you are aware of your vicinity and it is not conducive for you to have a live broadcast, do not put yourself in danger. We do not think that any journalist should become the story in the process of reporting the news. You understand? So we try to now and then give out guidelines on how journalists should be aware of threats around the environment. If you're driving, you should be aware if there is a particular car or individual that is trailing you, and avoid the issue of always following the same route consistently. And, it isn't just about the physical threat. These days, journalists are exposed to cyber threats. You understand? And journalists are expected to have the knowledge about how to protect themselves from cyber threats and terrorism. Because consistently, governments across the world are always monitoring journalists. They are always trying to get into your mobile devices to find out what you're doing. So it is not a matter that it is about Nigeria. So we encourage our members to also go online and make research on how to avoid cyber threats and monitoring.
Okay. Before I take you on the next question, you talked about when the journalist becomes the story. So how has the NUJ been able to handle such situations when the journalist becomes the story? Let's talk about death, harassment, female harassment.
Yes.
How do you handle the family, the organization, and even the society?
Yes. Unfortunately, we've had instances where the NUJ had to bear the brunt of supporting families of members that have died in the course of the performance of their job. I remember a particular incident here in Abuja where a journalist was shot, or according to the police, he fell on a boulder while covering child protests late last year. And the NUJ had to ensure all through the process. We were majorly responsible for funding of the autopsy and followed up with the police authorities in securing the release of the corpse. We tried to lend them support to bereaved families. We also are in the process of having a journalist support fund. That fund is designed to offer assistance to members that one way or the other have lost their breadwinner or have become disadvantaged, either lost a limb or can no longer function properly. So those are some of the initiatives we are looking at the moment.
Okay, I'd like to take you back to the issue of COVID-19. Journalists were so active during the emergence of the infection in Nigeria. Now, talking about precaution, is it that we do not have enough sensitization? Talking about a spike in the number of cases we are having.
Well, I think...
What is the level of sensitization as a journalist?
Well, I think the federal government in particular has done very well, one must admit, because immediately this happened, the Presidential Task Force was set up, which has consistently briefed the media and the public on its activities and has rolled out guidelines. I think the fundamental here is about our sociological environment, where we are conditioned to believe that the average Nigerian has this tenacity to withstand every adversity or the outbreak of any disease, because it's simple. The government has reached out to faith-based organizations. Government has reached out to mosques and churches. Everywhere you go, everywhere you turn, on the radio. And I must commend the media, because basically we took it as a social contract.
Okay.
Jingles were aired for free. Jingles, were produced by various media organizations, and let me thank the NTA for free.
Thank you.
And these were broadcast at every time, and it's still happening. But I think Nigerians need to realize that we are dealing with a very novel virus, the coronavirus, and it requires all hands to be on deck and follow the protocols that have been established. It isn't that the awareness was lacking or is lacking, but it is adherence, because it's very difficult to enforce, what government has established, because people will have to take public transportation, people will have to go to the markets, people will have to engage in one commercial activity or the other. I think it is about the willingness of the people to follow what government has put in place. That is it. If not, the media has done its part, its social contract, by informing the people.
Okay, I'd like to take you back to the issue of violence, reporting during violence. I could remember vividly, I spoke to a colleague of yours last week on verification. Now, during the NSAS protest that was hijacked by hoodlums, so many journalists out there bringing in stories, finding them, receiving them, and then sharing on different platforms. Now, verification is another problem, and we understand that some media houses were actually sanctioned. What is your position on verification of facts?
Well, that's been a very controversial one. We are all students of journalism, and we know the place of amateur videos in reporting. Sometimes it's difficult. The lines are blurred. The lines are very thin between what is real and what is not, especially during conflict and violence. We must be very careful. If you're not sure, that's the cardinal point, you leave out. You understand? Because truth is sacred. If you're not sure of your facts, you leave out. But sometimes also, that we have what is called eyewitness report. And it's difficult for some of those visuals to have been manufactured or tampered with. What I think is that we must draw a line between social stability and harmony and between reporting the news as it were. I think government too needs to give the media some sort of break, because people are eager, to want to know what's happening, especially during the NSAS protest. And the danger of not having the traditional media reporting is that you allow social media with all its uncensored and biased and inflammatory, citizens report to run. Because by and large, I don't know when last you took a public bus, I try to do that. You will hear Nigerians tell you, I watched it on TV. I read it in the newspaper. I listened to it in the radio. That tells you the believability of the citizens concerning traditional media. So that's why government needs to also find a way, and try to see how they can cooperate with the mass media in such instances.
Okay. So reporting violence, are there precautionary steps to be taken to avoid being kidnapped, killed, or being intimidated?
First, let me say that there are no foolproof measures.
Okay.
You understand, when it comes to the issue of being a target for those that are determined. But primary precautions are key. You get it. If you, as a journalist, you should be aware of your surroundings, like I said earlier. You should also have the contact of colleagues and of security forces or agents that you can easily reach out to in the event of an emergency. And I also think that it is important that as journalists, we shouldn't always have on our phones bank alerts and bank transactions, and because kidnappers generally, when they kidnap you, the first thing they do is to go for your mobile device.
Yes.
To try to find out who you are, what you're worth, and all of those. Not that we worth much anyway, but a little information in any of the mobile devices on you could simply make you a major target. I think we must also look at objectivity and professionalism so that we do not become easy prey to these individuals.
Threat actually is a global phenomenon. Journalists across the globe are familiar with threats any day, anytime. It will come in form of either a call, or they walk up to you, or they threaten you, either at work, on the street, or anywhere. How do we secure lives?
Well, securing lives is it's majorly those of the security apparatus. Yes, it's kind of tough. Ours is to report, ours is to ensure that people are aware. But I think that we can offer a guide, because we report security most times more than the average citizen. So it's in our place to also give tips to fellow citizens. That is what I can see in that direction.
Yeah, okay. So I need you to give us a brief on the relationship between NUJ and the police. Do we have a strong synergy?
Well, over the years,
problem?
no. Over the years, there has always been mutual suspicion between the journalists and the police. But here in FCT, Nigeria's federal capital, we have a very robust relationship, not just with the police, but with other security agencies. I think that both professions or callings should understand that they are working towards one goal: the peace of society, the security of society. While you are securing it, I am also reporting on what you're doing. So there ought to be that synergy, so that there wouldn't be a clash of interests and of egos, basically. So it is very important, not just about the police, but that all security agencies, because the journalist can also act as an intelligence officer to you. Mm-hmm. And you also need the journalist to inform society about what you're doing in terms of securing, the country and society at large. So it should be a symbiotic relationship where we interrogate each other mutually without suspicion.
Mutually?
Yes.
All right, finally, before I let you go, what would be your word of advice to journalists as they go about their duty, their profession?
Well, my advice, as usual, to colleagues, to journalists and media practitioners is that being a journalist is a privilege. It is a calling. It is divine. And it has a constitutional guarantee. Okay. And that constitutional guarantee demands that you must be above board for you to hold others accountable to society. You understand? So you cannot sell your integrity. You cannot impinge on your own integrity when you hope to bring others to question. You understand? So you must remain professional, you must remain objective, you must seek for balance, and you must work for societal good, for societal peace, for sustainable development, and for integration. That is the objective.
All right, Mr. Emmanuel Ogbeche, Chairman, Nigerian Union of Journalists, FCT Chapter, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for having me here.
Coming to our studio to enlighten us. Thank you very much. And that's it on the Media Review segment this week.
And that does it for this edition of Insight. Elizabeth.
We'll see you next week. Keep watching Insight.
And my name is Victor Azu. Bye-bye for now.
Social media is like a big notice board in the marketplace. What you put on it, everybody will see.
One major definition of integrity is that you should do the right thing even if nobody is looking at you.
At what point do we as a people stand still and say, no, we no longer want money to become that thing that determines who we choose as leaders?
We are 50% of the population, and I really feel that it would make a lot of difference, a big boost to our development if there were more women participation.
In recent times, a further rise has gained popularity in Nigeria and beyond. It is now widely cultivated while attracting other key service areas in the farming industry. What is the state of ofada rice in Ogun State today? Please come along with me. Ofada rice cultivation has been part of our agriculture in Ogun State since time immemorial. Grown in subsistence, it was scarce. Nevertheless, due to concerted efforts by farmers in recent times, it became readily available in the market. Government involvement at every stage of production has also taken the crop to industrial level. Some people gave their opinions on the state of ofada rice production in Ogun State today.
But when you have young people who are ready to produce, and when you have industries who have established mill without farm, that we're talking about industrialization, industrial opportunity. So a good number of off-takers are keen up to purchase ofada rice paddy from Ogun farmers. And people we're also keen into agricultural opportunity, direct investment, foreign, local, and national investment in agriculture. And some of these people, they're actually into establishing a rice mill. Some of them want to fill their mill with ofada rice. We also have a project we are doing, IFAD, federal government project, and they're also supporting young people into growing ofada rice. So we're growing rice in 8 local government areas in Ogun State.
Because our farmers have not been adopting good agronomic practices, that has denied them the reward of having higher yields on their ofada farm. Good agronomic practices are deployed. Ofada rice can also yield as much as 3 to 4 tons in an upland area, and more than that in lowland area.
We have different ofada that people are doing from different states. The real ofada is from Ogun State, and we have it, and we are bold enough to tell you we have ofada gold. We have 2 types of ofada. There is ofada white ofada and gold ofada. This one we planted is all gold, ofada gold. When you even people that have diabetes, they even rush. Doctor used to tell them that they should go for ofada instead of those white one.
Perhaps with more efforts in ofada rice production, the Gateway State has a future among states contributing to Nigeria's foreign exchange earnings in the world of agriculture.
Welcome to Abuja, the place that unites Nigeria.
You can follow us on all our social media platforms: Facebook at NTA Network News, Instagram at NTA Network, Twitter at NTA News Now, YouTube at NTA News Online, or visit www.nta.ng. For live streaming, visit www.nta.ng/live. Now, you can stay updated on the go, be it on your TV, iPhone, laptop, or iPad, or download the NTA mobile application from your Play Store.
They are critical critical infrastructural assets that can be found in major cities around the world. Not only do they aid easy and quick movement of humans and goods, they enhance the landscape of metropolitan settings. I'm referring to bridges, and they abound in Lagos. However, the Otedola and Kara Bridge continues to raise concerns with the spate of incessant carnage and explosions involving petrol tankers and other articulated vehicles. In spite of efforts by government aimed at addressing this trend, the mishap have persisted, as yet another fire outbreak was recorded on the 7th of November. Therefore, seeking answers that could beef up safety on that spot is the focus of our discussion today on Panorama, coming to you from the Lagos Network Center. I am Dotun Ogun. Thanks for joining us. President Muhammadu Buhari is reminding the nation's youths that keeping the peace is in their own interest, as everything being done by the government is to guarantee a sustainable future for them to live more meaningfully. The president was speaking at an audience with the Deputy Secretary General of the United Nations, Nigeria's Amina Mohammed. State House correspondent Adamu Sambo has the details.
Responding to the recent NSAS protests as well as the mayhem and destruction of property that came in his wake, President Muhammadu Buhari maintains that his own generation is on the last lap of exiting the stage, but the youth, as future leaders, want jobs, infrastructure, and development for a better life. Achieving these, he however says, can only be made possible if the youth take more responsibility in keeping the peace. The president explains that their views, loudly and genuinely expressed recently, have been heard and appropriate responsive measures taken by government. The severe infrastructure deficit, for instance, inherited by his administration, he said, is being corrected within the limits of resources. President Buhari also touched on the devastating effect of COVID-19 on global economy, lives and livelihoods, saying Nigeria is also concerned about the recharge of Lake Chad, which has great implications on security as well as irregular migration. The Deputy Secretary General of the United Nations, Amina Mohammed, and her delegation are on a solidarity visit to 5 West African countries, beginning with Nigeria, as the battle against COVID-19 continues.
All of that really was to express our support for socioeconomic responses, because we believe that the stimulus packages that countries are putting forward are ones that can be used to spend ensuring a recovery that will be better when this pandemic is over. As with most countries today, in the north we're finding trillions of dollars that are being spent on their own stimulus packages. However, the barriers to accessing the resources and some of the conditionalities to allow for developing countries like ours in this region has remained quite difficult. The response from the global community, from the G20, has not been as forthcoming. So we're also here to hear what some of those barriers are, why, where we can assist in amplifying the ask to help more liquidity, more moratoriums on debt, so that it's not a question of not paying the debt.
Discussions with the president also centered on climate change, security, political, developmental, and humanitarian issues, as well as the recent NSAS protests in parts of the country.
It was, of course, one that the Secretary General, we all were alarmed and, of course, support the country in trying to get back on track. Young people and their demands for social justice, for governance, are all legitimate ones, and they must be done peacefully. What we all, I think, were disturbed by and concerned by was the level of damage, the level of loss of lives, and we continue to condole those families who suffered those losses. I have to say that, there are many protests around this world that have been exacerbated by COVID, because COVID has left people out of work, it's left people hopeless because of the socioeconomic impacts. And in many of those protests, we have not seen governments turn around and respond as quickly as this government did. So the UN's response to this is that we must make sure that what happened in these protests is we are able to address those issues, those gaps, and to begin the reform, in fact, I would say the transformations that are needed.
The UN Deputy Secretary General Amina Mohammed and her team are expected to visit Borno, one of the states badly affected by the Boko Haram insurgency, on a fact-finding mission Tuesday. From the State House, Adamu Sambu, NTA News.
President Muhammadu Buhari has welcomed the arrival of the first effective coronavirus vaccine after a successful human trial phase. Reacting to the news that the vaccine has recorded 90% effectiveness against the disease, the president described the development as a major milestone, but warned that the world must unite in facilitating the equitable access and distribution of these vaccines to protect people in all countries. President Buhari reiterated his earlier call that only a people's vaccine with equality and solidarity at its core can protect all of humanity and get our societies safely running again, as a bold international agreement cannot wait. In dealing with the disruptions caused by COVID-19 on economies and livelihoods, stronger international cooperation and collaboration among countries will be crucial in addressing the situation and expediting economic recovery. Vice President Professor Yemi Osinbajo stated this on Monday at the 8th German-Nigerian Business Forum, which held virtually. Professor Osinbajo notes that the cooperation between Nigeria and Germany is now more important than ever, and the forum is an essential platform for deliberating on the mutually beneficial ways the two countries can achieve shared objectives as nations. The Vice President states, and I quote, "We already have an excellent example, the Presidential Power Initiative, a power infrastructure upgrade and modernization program agreed by the Nigerian government and Siemens AG of Germany with the support of the German government," the Vice President recalled. Members of the ECOWAS Parliament are holding talks with the ECOWAS Commission in order to take stock of the COVID-19 pandemic and its impact on agricultural production and food security in the West African region. A meeting of Parliament's joint committees on agriculture, environment and natural resources, industry and private sector, health, energy and mining, as well as that of social affairs, gender and women empowerment, holding in Guinea-Bissau, is analyzing reports from experts in the ECOWAS Commission's response and opportunities to mitigate impact of the pandemic on food security. ECOWAS members have already set up various mechanisms coordinated to manage the fight against the pandemic. The main objectives are to preserve human lives, contain spread of the virus, implement palliative measures in favor of vulnerable populations, establish systems to protect economies, and develop social safety nets across the region. Latest figures from the Nigeria Center for Disease Control indicates that 94 new cases of coronavirus have been confirmed as at the 9th of November 2020, bringing the total number of confirmed cases to 64,184. The cases were recorded in 7 states of the Federation, including the Federal Capital Territory. Lagos recorded the daily highest of 50, followed by the FCT with 24, Kwara 9, Edo 4, Kaduna 3, while Ondo and Plateau have 2 cases each. Total number of those discharged is 60,069, while 1,158 deaths have been recorded across the country. As government and key players are mapping out ways of cushioning the effect of job losses caused by COVID-19 and wanton destruction of public and private assets during the end-SARS violence, Minister of Information and Culture Lai Mohammed has re-emphasized the federal government's commitment to creating jobs for the youths to further check their restiveness. The minister said this in Lagos. Dosa Usula completes the story.
Unemployment, according to Nigerians, appears to be the root cause of violence in the country. Research suggests that unemployed youths are more likely to be perpetrators as well as victims of crime and violence. Speaking with newsmen on the sideline of the meeting of governors, ministers and traditional rulers of southwest states following the End SARS protest mayhem, the Minister for Information and Culture said that the government would continue to engage the youths and address the issue of poverty.
End SARS protest and the aftermath has actually researching fundamental issues. And we believe that it's important for the governor, for the government and the governed to actually interact and let's explain to ourselves the circumstances of this unfortunate End SARS protest.
The minister added that the government would continue to invest in the development of human capacity with more implementation of economic policies that will engender development and building of more public infrastructure that would empower the teeming youths.
It's not as if the government has not been addressing the issues of youth unemployment. No. You see, if you look at the youth, the newly launched the youth trust fund, it is actually aimed at creating jobs for the youth. It's a 75 billion naira fund. I think in 3 tiers. But it's supposed to give opportunities to the youth.
Lai Mohammed, however, called for peace while assuring the youths of President Muhammadu Buhari's commitment to addressing their demands. In Lagos, Nusa Osula, NTA News.
The saying that where there is life, there is hope aptly applies and describes the experience of business owners in Lagos whose means of livelihood were affected by the violence that trailed the End SARS protest as they have begun the process of rebuilding their businesses. Mrs. Ngozi Ukachukwu is one of the casualties of the End SARS protest. Hoodlums raided her shop and carted away goods worth millions of naira. 2 weeks down the line, she is beginning to put her business back to life.
Our gate is still locked. Yeah, we're trying to maybe find our way back. So we've cleaned the office. We are talking to some people who maybe we might get some assistance from, like the banks anyway. So we're talking with the banks, and some of them are saying the central bank, they made the promise, but they have not really asked them to go on.
Okechukwu Eze's story is not different. He says he has to look beyond what happened to him and bring his business back on board.
It's not easy. You are very difficult. You don't know how to do. You are waiting for government. They say you are going to do something. They have already filled form, waiting for them. But they cannot keep your hand together waiting for them. I have to go and borrow money from microfinance to start. And little while my friends give to me.
A drive through some major roads in the metropolis shows that some banks have started renovating their buildings affected during the crisis. As the rebuilding process continues, the hope of business owners, especially small and medium-scale enterprises, is that government will expedite action in the disbursement of financial support in order to revive their businesses. In Lagos. You're watching Panorama coming to you from the Lagos Network Center. Time now for a break. The news continues shortly. Please stay with us.
Genuine concerns and agitations by Nigerians about the excessive use of force and, in some cases, extrajudicial killings and wrongful conduct by men of the Nigerian police force. The disbanding of SARS is only the first step in our commitment to extensive police reform in order to ensure that the primary duty of the police and other law enforcement agencies remains the protection of lives and livelihoods of our people. We will also ensure that all those responsible for misconduct or wrongful acts are brought to justice. We also deeply regret the loss of life of the young man in Oyo State during the recent demonstrations. I have directed that the circumstances of his death should be thoroughly investigated. Meanwhile, it is important to recognize that the vast majority of men and women of the police force are hardworking and diligent in performing their duties. The few bad eggs should not be allowed to tarnish the image and reputation of the force.
Many thanks for rejoining us. The Otedola Bridge is one of the numerous bridges in Lagos designed to solve the challenges of traffic gridlock and intra-city connectivity. But the tragic experiences of road users is causing apprehension and suspicion that the bridge is shrouded in mystery. In scrambling for solution, the attention is being shifted to the structural defect. But how true is this? Michael Olale provides an answer.
June 28, 2018 was a dark day in Lagos when a tanker loaded with petrol leaked and exploded on the Otedola Bridge. What looked like just one of those accidents claimed 12 lives, while 54 vehicles were razed. This is according to the Federal Road Safety Corps available data. This was the height of the incessant road mishaps periodically experienced on the stretch of the Otedola Bridge, especially by articulated vehicles. The scenario is gradually becoming a nightmare.
I was shouting that everybody come down, run away, run away. Most of people come here, they didn't touch the other side. After that, my driver, I couldn't see him now. I'm waiting for him.
In the wake of another accident on the 17th of October this year, attention was drawn to the possibility of design defects. Olukoya Oduluga, a tricyclist operating at one of the estates around the axis, has seen it all, and going by his observation, the assumption could be right.
Anytime that the trailer they are coming this way, the way they are coming with full speed, then maybe they have no their brake or anything, something will just happen. They start controlling it, they cannot control it. That's how the motor will meet the one in the front.
It's straight, as you can see. The curvature there is not too much. It's just that people, when they are, well, I say overwhelmed or something, they run excessively. Some drink a lot. I don't know. Because those things happen mostly in the night.
Residents say, regardless of their opinion, the position of experts is important in finding a lasting solution.
The work carried out on the bridge by the Nigerian Institute of Civil Engineers, Lagos chapter, which is a subdivision of the Nigerian Institute of Engineers. The bridge as at that time, 2018, was structurally stable. So that means that it's safe for usage by motorists.
The Federal Road Safety Corps is putting up a more robust strategy as checking the trend. The sector commander appealed to motorists, especially tanker drivers, to comply with road safety code and treat a complicated situation with care in the interest of public safety. In Lagos, Michael Olale, NTA News.
Talking to us via Zoom about the worrisome trend on Otedola Bridge as well as Kara Bridge is Engineer Sheun Falui, Chairman, Nigerian Institution of Safety Engineers, Lagos Chapter. Welcome to Panorama.
Thank you very much, Dotson.
All right, Engineer Falui, you were part of a team that investigated the incessant tanker explosions on bridges and in Nigeria. I mean, what were the findings from that investigation?
Thank you very much, Dotson. We did an investigation, Nigerian Society of Engineers. We looked at why there seemed to be so many tanker explosions that were cataclysmic. We went to visit Otedola Bridge. We went to the Jolegba Bridge. We went to various places in Nigeria to assess. And what we found was that there are a combination of factors. None of it included witches and wizards. None of it included being jinxed in those particular locations. There were factors that included mechanical problems. There were factors that included vehicle problems. There were factors that included people problems, the drivers. There are factors that included the road problems. There are so many different factors. For example, I'll just give us examples. For the people problems, sometimes the drivers themselves, maybe it was that they were inebriated when they were plying that particular route, or maybe it was that they were just plain unhealthy. They were not the best people to be operating at that time, or sometimes they were just not competent. They were not able to drive those particular types of articulated vehicles. Another problem, a set of problems, we said mechanical problems. The tankers themselves, the way they're built, particularly the ones that are built in Nigeria, they're not built in a manner that is safe, that is able to absorb collision. Tankers in other countries, when they sustain an impact, they do not suffer such catastrophic damage. But in Nigeria, we find that a lot of the tankers, when they have accidents, that they tend to implode or they tend to explode. There are simple things that are engineering design things that guard against this. There are bulkheads for tankers so that if there's a collision, the tanker can absorb the impact and it will not be destroyed. Or there are also stiffeners, and they're also building the tankers to have compartments that will be able to distribute the volume. Also, tankers, they're supposed to have, if they overturn, an overturn protection so that they are strong enough to take the weight of at least 1.5 times the full load of that particular tanker. Unfortunately, many tankers that are built in Nigeria, in Nigerian fabrication yards, welders in maybe it's Owode or Kaduna or Nasarawa, they are not built to this standard. So those tankers, when they have such collisions, they tend to explode. We also found that there are vehicle problems. Sometimes it's the vehicle, they are not well maintained. Sometimes it's the wrong type of vehicle. It's a brake failure like the one that happened at car. You just find that the vehicle itself, it has an issue, and then it can cause an accident. The road problems as well. What we found about the road problems is that roads, the road surface itself, is supposed to take certain types of loads, and also the road is supposed to be smooth to be able to take the nature of the load. However, over time, you have that the road starts developing an uneven surface because of use, because of wear and tear, and then it develops what is called an adverse camber. An adverse camber is that the way the road is tilted, it tends to push the truck so that it makes it difficult for a tanker to be controlled. And so for an unsuspecting tanker driver, they may find that they're applying a particular bridge and the road has just not been maintained in the manner that will be able to sustain that kind of load or that kind of speed. And so tankers that apply that particular place, they will keep experiencing the self-same thing. So it has nothing to do with a witch living in that area or trying to claim somebody's lives. It's just simply that there are a lot of engineering parameters that conspire to cause such failures.
Now, aside from the uneven road surface that you just mentioned, how would you describe the state of bridges, especially Kara and Otedola Bridge?
So the thing with bridges as well is that over time they tend to degenerate with age. And long span bridges like the Kara Bridge, for example, it has oscillations with time. For tankers, specifically for tankers, because they're carrying liquid, when the tankers are moving, the volume or the liquid in the tanker, it also is in motion. If the tanker has to come to a sudden stop, the liquid does not stop immediately. It will still be doing what is called sloshing. Now, if the bridge itself also is oscillating at the same time as the liquid is slushing, we get to a point where it is that it's like resonance, and then you have the amplitude just increases, and then the bridge, it can then tend to contribute to having a cataclysmic problem. So for the problem in Kara Bridge, for example, what happened wasn't as a result of the problem of the bridge itself. The bridge hasn't reached that state, but it's to say that typically when bridges are built, all of these things are things that are looked at to be able to ensure that it does not cause a problem. The Otedola Bridge, what we also found about that one was that it's on an incline, it's on a slope. It's one that if a tanker driver, and it also had surfacing that was really terrible. It has been resurfaced now. The Federal Ministry of Works has addressed it, but that had contributed to a lot of problems previously, that there were accidents.
Now, all right, I've been speaking with Engineer Sean Falui, and that's all we can take on that particular interview segment on the root causes and solutions to tanker accidents on Otedola as well as Kara Bridge. Thank you so much. And now let's go to Sports Update with Gift George. And that's the much we can take on Panorama, coming to you from the Lagos Network Center. And that's it. It's bye for now.
Welcome to Abuja, the place that unites Nigeria.
Wouldn't like to drive in the rain.
It depends on the velocity of the rain.
You can follow us on all our social media platforms: Facebook at NTA Network News, Instagram at NTA Network, Twitter at NTA News Now, YouTube at NTA News Online. Or visit www.nta.ng. For live streaming, visit www.nta.ng/live. Now, you can stay updated on the go. Be it on your TV, iPhone, laptop, or iPad, or download the NTA mobile application from your Play Store or App Store. NTA, you can beat the rich.
This is the network service of the NTA.
Jennifer Igwe, welcome to another episode of Environment Matters. Now, normalcy and calm are gradually returning to most states in Nigeria after more than 2 weeks of demonstration by youths to end what they term brutality of the Federal Special Anti-Robbery Squad, SARS. Now, immediately, the media demands the federal government disbanded that squad and put in place modalities to ensure all their demands are met. In spite of this, the protests continued. In the process, hoodlums hijacked it and it escalated into mayhem, resulting in loss of lives and property. But one thing we don't realize is this: we are trying to fight back the impact of climate change, to save our environment, to ensure that we have an ecosystem that will pass from one generation to the other. All this will not be successful if we don't have a peaceful environment. So